Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Indian timing. Happy Halloween. Start tuning in. We want to see you come on board here. Happy Halloween to everybody. It is that time where people get scared or want to be scared or want to scare others. But tonight, we're not going to be getting scared. We're going to be getting enlightened. Because the time to get scared is finished. The time for fear of identity crises. This is what we're going to touch on tonight. This is what we're going to touch on tonight. So we're really glad to be live. And we're just going to welcome everybody in. So folks, as you're coming in, get your phones, start sharing this out. I'm going to do the same. We're going to get this out here, folks. We're going live. Come on board here. Welcome in from the cold. Let's have you guys coming in here at the moment. This is going to be epic. I can't wait. We're doing this. Come on board, folks. And just give us a few minutes while we get the stream going. We're going to get the stream live. We're going to get this show off the ground, guys. And if you've never seen a guy multitask, talk and do crazy stuff like this, this is your chance right here. We're going for this. So give us a second. We're going to be live. We're going to be covering some beautiful topics. Stay with us. Stay tuned. Okay, as we're tuning in, I want to ask this straight question. Who has suffered in their life an identity crisis? Who can relate to being in an identity? Mithilesh is on board. Welcome, guys. We've got some really good people. Mithilesh again. Probably the only Indian, as in Indian from India, shaman that I know. Welcome on board, Mithilesh, a talent in his own right. It's so good to have you guys. You could be tricking or treating, but here's the thing, guys. We've been tricked enough. I think it's time for a treat. So we're going to do this. As we do this, I want to know from you guys, and I also want to just switch the mute button on that device there. But that's cool, I'll do that. So we're going to get this going. Just bear with us. We've got a technical thing. We'll be back.
You need to go closer. The light is really bad on the Facebook Live. It's like really dark. Or the computer. On Amit's looks fine, but yours for some reason looks really dark. Like both of you are super dark.
On this one over here?
No, his PC.
Okay, we're back. We're having to deal with technology, but we are here. We're fighting. We're crushing this. I want to ask this first question straight away. Who has suffered from an identity crisis? Start clicking in. We want to hear your responses as we get going with our special guest here today. Amit, how was your journey in here?
Very quick.
And how did you find it? You know, just traveling from all the way that you traveled from to get here.
That long way. I was actually enjoying watching the trick-or-treaters in their costumes, and I don't know if you saw my Instagram story as a reminder, but I had taken 5 minutes before I was getting ready to go outside and just look around and just enjoy
the ambience around.
Exactly, and it was very fitting because I was seeing all these kids running around in masks.
Tonight, right?
Tonight, and then just before I went in to get ready, I did a quick Instagram story to remind everyone that this was happening, and it was very fitting to look around and see these kids in their masks, and based on what we're discussing today,
right?
The question aroused in my head was, how many masks do we all wear?
We all wear masks.
Right? We all wear masks, but how many different masks do we wear?
And such a befitting thing to talk about on Halloween, about the masks that we wear.
So, I mean, yeah, even on the way here, I was looking around and I was thinking, wow, how many different masks have I seen just on the way here, and how many different masks do we as individuals wear throughout our daily lives?
I want to ask you a question. If I was to tell you that you could only be one way, you could only present yourself in a certain way in front of everybody, how would that be for you? How challenging would it be for you? Because we all wear masks.
That would be a very big challenge. That would be a mammoth task, because naturally we have so many different circles. Take myself for example. I've grown up within music and religion, from a young age with my father, and I've got that whole network. But I've also grown up being born and bred here in that Western society, that Western culture. I've grown up around the wrong kind of people. I've grown up around the right kind of people.
And that's what we want to explore, because I think, and guys, click in if you can relate to this. We all end up having to be around people that we don't necessarily like. Sometimes people that we get on with, and sometimes people that we have to get on with.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah, indeed.
And sometimes you have the choice to be able to say, I don't want to know this person. And other times you just don't. You just don't have that choice. You've got to be around people, especially if they're family members. You've got to be around them. There's not much you can do about that.
No.
So I want to really now, folks, welcome on board. I really want to welcome and get the show underway officially. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've tuned in. Welcome to Urban Spirituality. My name is Prash K, your host, as always, with a challenging, interesting, insightful individual as a special guest, and always keeping it real. We have our people from all walks of life, and they share one thing in common. They bring their authentic selves, and they leave all their masks behind. No Halloween masks when they come into this interview, this show right here, Urban Spirituality. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our very, very special guest. You know, I was making a little bio for this guy because I've known him in one particular way, and that's in a musical capacity. He is a remarkable musician, but there's so much more to him. But allow me to introduce him. He's a pro musician. He's worked in the musical industry for many, many years. He plays tabla. It's his weapon of choice. It is what he is known for. And it is an incredible craft that he has built for himself. He's built a business around this. He is the director and founder of the Tal Principle, which is an independent music performance and production organization. You'll hear about it. They perform internationally. The guy literally gets to travel all over the world to do what he loves. He's also an online business owner. He's a member of several powerful network business organizations. He's doing an excellent job of doing this as well. On top of that, he's one of the fundraising founders of campaigns for the Great Ormond Street Hospital, as well as other charities. He is a brother to many, a son to a very special pair of parents, and he's a friend to so many around the world. And he has so much wisdom to share. And this evening, we're going to see him in a light that many of you who might have known him have never seen him before. Please put your hands together and show your love for the one and only Amit Jay.
Guys, thank you for joining.
Welcome to have you, man.
Thank you. And this
has been a long time coming.
It's definitely been, and just so excited, a tad nervous, just a tad, but generally very excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
You're very welcome. It's been a long time coming, and it's just great to have you. And also, you'll notice the resemblance to a well-known Hollywood celebrity, of course, sitting in front of you, the venerable Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
But without the moodiness. Without the moodiness.
It's funny that you say it. It's one of my favorite actors, actually.
Of course, man.
I did try to have the whole thing going on, but it didn't get there.
He's got it.
We tried.
Guys, can you click in? Can you see any resemblance to Johnny Depp here? Click in if you can see that. All right, listen. We're going to get the show underway. We're going to dive in first and foremost. Where have you spent most of your life living? Describe that environment for me.
So, born and bred here in the UK.
In the UK, folks, for those of you who've joined us from New South Wales, we love our New South Wales fans. Sydney, everywhere that they're tuning in from, it's a pleasure to have you guys. Also, our friends in Malaysia, we love Silat and the martial arts, so one day we're going to be out doing a Malaysian documentary.
Sure.
But for the UK guys.
Yeah, so born and bred in the UK. I've predominantly grown up here. I've spent a fair bit of time abroad doing music training. Spent months at a time in India, training in tabla, training in harmonium, semi-classical stroke devotional vocals. But yeah, predominantly everything has been UK based. You know, like I was saying, being brought up here has allowed me to swiftly, seamlessly transition between different circles, different networks. and actually is why we ended up coming to this very subject, which was the identity crisis. Is who are you? You know, through transitioning between these circles and the different networks that we sit in, it's very easy to lose who you are authentically,
Right.
your authentic self. Some people end up wearing so many different masks or being a chameleon from one circle to another that I personally feel that sometimes you don't actually know who you are in the first place because you're so busy being this person in this circle and being another person in another circle and then having to be another person. So I think the question is before we go into the identity crisis is, do you know who you are in the first place?
Folks, let's have your input onto this. You're hearing this, and it sounds like a really dumb question, right? Do you know who you are? But if somebody asks you, who are you? Well, how would you respond? What's the first thing that would come to you? What's the second thing that would come to you? Would you say, oh, I'm so-and-so? You'd give your name. Would you say your title? Would you say your race, your religion? You'd say, I'm so-and-so, I'm Indian, or I'm English. Would you give your profession? And here's the thing, actually, you raise a really good point, and this is perfect territory for urban spirituality. You can keep asking that question recursively, and you'll almost get a different answer each time, because there's so many aspects that make a person. But there comes a point when you exhaust yourself, and there's not much more else you can say. I'm a male, I'm an Englishman, I'm this, I'm that, I'm from this profession. Oh, well, I'm this clan. I'm this, I'm a musician, I'm a martial artist, I'm this, I'm that. You can just keep going on, and eventually you come to a point where you say, you've exhausted those.
Yeah.
And is it not the case that when you've exhausted all those titles and labels, right inside there,
That's where you find yourself. Completely. Because for me personally, it's yes, I'm a musician. Yes, I'm a business owner. Yes, I'm a founder of a massive fundraising campaign for Great Ormond Street. I'm a diagnostic technician. You know, I can just keep going. But that's what I am. That's who I am. Who am I? That's the question here. Is who are you? Identity crisis meaning going from your professional circle to your friend circle to your family circle. Which one of these are you?
that's an interesting point, because even when you say, what are you? You can say, well, what am I? I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, you know, I'm a friend. So again, these are titles. But to recursively ask that question and get to a position where you can really and honestly just say, where you've peeled every single layer out of those definitions, titles, and labels, then you're left with, who are you?
Exactly.
What is your identity?
Exactly, and this is something that I face personally for myself. Is I reside in so many different circles throughout many different networks, be it profession, music,
Social.
my friends, exactly, social.
Friends,
that over time, kind of growing up, I used to find myself losing who I was, going from one circle to another, because you know, professionally, academically, you have to be a particular way. You can't just walk into a surgery clinic and be like, yo man, how you doing? You know, what's going on? You can't do that. But then at the same token, you can't then transition from your professional surrounding, go to your friends and have them see you in that kind of professional light all the time, because that's not really who you are.
So you have to vacillate that. You have to vary that. Totally get that.
Yeah, and I think that again, you know, going from a young age, you know, coming up to school, going to college, going to uni, working at the same time, and while getting into work, you know, I said I'm a surgical technician for eye surgery, and I used to work between 5 different clinics. I used to run those clinics, and I would deal with management of all different levels. I was only 21, so at 21, dealing with those kind of that hierarchy, if you like.
Can we get the diffuser back on there, please?
You have to be quite professional. You know, you can't can't take your social self and.
We're having to be quite professional here right now,
Yeah.
as you can see with the technical challenges we get. But
You know, you can't take that social version of yourself and deal with the managing director of a multi-billion-pound surgical company. You can't do that.
right, so there is a need. There is a need to. 1 second, guys.
Sorry, just lighting. I couldn't see you properly. I have to put more light onto you.
Yeah, that's not working, unfortunately.
Bear with us. Hang on 2
There's a
seconds.
big shadow there. Let's talk about the roles that people play. Let's talk about the roles that people have to play. Folks, if you're listening to this, how many roles do you have to play in your own lives? Let's look at that. There are certain common roles I think we can all relate to. There's the role that we play in our family. And there'll be roles that we play in our closest family, right? In our romantic relationship or our intimate relationship, we'll have a role. Then we have a role that we have to play within our household, right? People under our roof, our blood family. And then on top of that, there's the role that we have to play in our extended family. Then there's the role we play in our professional lives, as you described. Then you've got a different role and a different kind of mood that you present to yourself in your friend circles, right? Your friend circles is different to your social circles because you have your close friends. How you are with your close friends is not how you may necessarily be with the mates that you just see from time to time. And then you've got your A and other circle, right? So there's like 6 or 7 roles that I certainly see that I myself play, and we play that. Here's a question: how do you, folks watching this, how do you variate and move from one role to the other? Do you even think about it? Should you think about it? And I would actually say we should think about it.
Yeah. Do you realize?
I think we need to realize.
Do you realize that you are being one person in one circle and then having to seamlessly transition into being another version of that person with ever so slight tweaks? You know, maybe a drastic change in personality going from one circle to another. But again, it all boils back down to the very question that we're here to discuss: is do you lose yourself?
Right.
Have you lost yourself? But before that, even, is do you know who you are?
Do you know who you are?
Because I think for me, like I was saying, is that through growing up and having grown up in these various different circles, which are very different. You know, my friend circle to my professional circle is like 2 different worlds, completely. And then on a completely different end of the spectrum, you've got my family life. My family life is probably the one place that I can actually say that I can be completely who I am.
All right, let me pause there. This is an important point. You say it's around your family that you can be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it, do you feel, that we can't always be who we are in other circles? What is it that needs to be suppressed? What is it that needs to be either suppressed or modulated?
Okay, let's take an example of religion, for example. If you, for the Hindu followers or Asian followers, if you were to go to Maury Baba's Gatha, for those of you that don't know who he is, I shall explain in a minute.
Sure.
But if you were to go to Ramesh Oja's Gatha or Maury Baba's Gatha, you're in the presence of a religious figure. You couldn't walk in and say, "Wow, God," you know, because 1, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. 2, you would look like a complete idiot. And it's just not the practice. It's not the norm. It's not the acceptable behavior. It's not the acceptable persona. And that's not the kind of vibe you want to give off, because you are in the presence of holy people.
Right. But yet you'd be able to do that in another circle.
Absolutely.
Is your point?
Yeah. But that's not to say that you shouldn't still have an element of your own self there.
Aha. Right. So this is an important point, right? So folks, please click in, and we'll try and keep up with the comments here, but I think this is an important point. It's not, please tell me if you disagree, but I think what we're saying here, and we're agreeing on this, is it is not a crime that you have to suppress or almost hide certain aspects of your personality, your core persona in front of different audiences, It's not a crime. It's just something that you just have to acknowledge and recognize
Yeah,
and know the suitability of doing so.
I don't even think it's a case of needing to hide it. It's just a case of shifting it.
Shifting it. Yeah. So how you greet, it's just like how you greet. I think the simplest example is how you greet a friend. It might be like this, or it might be like that, and it might be like this. You might meet somebody elderly in your family, and you're gonna do, another stare, Jai Sri Krishna, whatever you're gonna say. And so if you're gonna be in a business dealing, you're gonna be like this. If you're a professional, you're gonna handshake. So there are different greetings for different people. So similarly, you operate in a slightly different, you operate and exhibit a slightly different aspect of your persona as is appropriate to the people that you're with.
Absolutely, as is appropriate to the surrounding that you're in, and the people that you're facing and encountering.
So let me dive in and ask you a curveball question straight off the bat.
Perfect.
Give me two examples of where you've had some serious identity crises over your journey. And I know that you have people in your fan base and in your following who come from quite different backgrounds.
It's fun. Again, it's funny because I had anticipated this question coming today, and I was thinking about a couple of different examples. One wasn't actually that long ago. I was performing at a partner, someone had passed away, and I had gone from one gig and I was going to this one, and I had done an outfit change.
Right.
The outfit change was
Traditional outfit?
out of a traditional outfit from the first gig.
From the first gig, which is a prayer.
And I had changed into comfortable clothes because it was a long drive. So I had a hoodie on, I had a cap on, I had my shades on.
You were NYC gangster mode.
Basically.
Of course.
And I got to the house that we were doing the prayers in, and I walked through the door. I had these cases of dabla with me. The guy opened the door, and he said, hi, how are you doing? I'm very well, thank you. Had these cases, and he was like, okay, cool, can I give you a hand?
Yeah.
Absolutely, please do. And the first question following that, something's happening over there. The first question following that was, so is the tabla player going to be along soon? I mean, I'm looking at the guy like, I am the tabla player.
And you didn't get that.
And he looked at it, so then the next thing he said,
give me 1 second, Amit.
we'll be back.
It's the odd technical gremlin that was unexpected. If we faked it, then we wouldn't be being authentic.
No. Instagram, stay right where you are. We'll be right back.
Awesome. Here we go. Awesome. Here we go again.
Crash is doing his thing. They're still here. Crash is doing his thing.
The identity crisis become a technology crisis.
Next week's topic is a technology crisis. I can counter that.
Wash those hands, the moves are beautiful. On the side as well. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so we're back again. And sorry for the technical issues, these things happen. We're going to make sure everybody's back on, so sorry for that. We'll let everybody join in. We're all joining in.
I remember where I was.
The joys of technology. And you might want to get this out on your Insta stream again.
I think it should still be taking over. Still there? Yeah.
Awesome. Folks, come on back in. Apologies for the technical things. I guess it must be one of those nights. Halloween night, something spooky is going on. That's all we can say. Here we go. Let's get it shared in Amit Jay as well. Folks, come on back in. We've had the Halloween scares. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We're getting into the juice of this interview, so stay with us for a moment as we go dive in. And I'm going to interrogate this guy sitting in front of me. He doesn't know it, but we're going to probe him a little bit. Folks, it's the job.
No pressure.
Here we go. Folks, we're back. So, we were just talking about how Amit himself may have faced some identity crises, and he was just going through a really interesting example of him having just finished one of his gigs with his fantastic business, his fantastic organization, the Tal Principle, and he was driving from what was a religious or a spiritual prayer ceremony where he had been performing, and he had to change from very traditional outfits to a very contemporary, very relaxed outfit. A very urban outfit, yeah, very appropriate. Urban spirituality, guys, here we are. And he turned up at the next gig, which happened to be a house program, and carry on with the story.
Yeah, so I rocked up at the door, knocked on the door, 2 cases, cap, hoodie, glasses, tracksuit, urban, and the gentleman that opened the door offered to take the cases, and while he was taking the cases in, he then asked me, so is the double up player going to be along anytime soon?
Right.
To which I just kind of froze for a second and responded that I am the double up player. And what followed that was, you don't look like a double up player. To which my response was, well, what does a double up player look like?
Interesting.
Right.
Right.
So if I rock up in a shirt, like I have done today, in jeans, with my shoes. And
does that qualify you to be a double up
am
player?
I a double up player?
Yeah.
Or is it because I turn up in a kurta, am I a double up player?
Right.
Why is it that because I came in a hoodie with a cap and my trackies, do I not look like a double up player? I don't understand.
Was that a key experience of how you felt an identity crisis, where you didn't know how, where you didn't feel safe and comfortable that you could be yourself because somebody had an expectation for you to look a certain way, dress a certain way, maybe even speak a certain way sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. In fact, definitely, because even though I was dressed a particular way, I think that there's these misconceptions that people judge you based on the way you look, right? And by wearing a hoodie with a cap, people think that one, you can't speak proper English, you're not educated, all you do is just spend your life on the road, roadman, and I don't agree with that. I'm sure a lot of people that are watching, and a lot of my friends, and a lot of my other circles will also agree that, there's many of us, I've seen you in a hoodie, and, you're a professional, you're a religious person. My mum, who's like over there, you can't see her, but she's over there. She walks around in a hoodie. But again, she's a traditional house working woman, Asian. She's a professional. She's educated. She's there. So for me to walk into this place looking how I did, and be told, well, you don't look like a double player, my instant response was, well, what does a double player look like?
And presumably, the thing was resolved. They realized that you're the real deal,
Yeah.
and their perception presumably changed when they saw you play
Instantly.
instantly. Right?
And so here's the best part is that I actually had a change of clothes with me
Right.
to change into, and it was the drive that was so long that I wanted to be comfortable. I didn't want to drive in my clothes out. And it got to a point where I had the outfit in the house, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to change.
I'm not going to change.
I'm not going to change. I'm going to stay exactly as I am. I'm going to stay in a hoodie. I'm going to wear a cap.
And you stayed.
And I stayed in a hoodie, in my cap. I put my shades on top of my cap, and I played with my cap on, with my hoodie on. The guy that welcomed me into the house actually sat next to me and was glued, like this, glued. And when I finished and I got up, he genuinely came and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to offend you." And you know, look, no offense was taken because I understood. And you know, I've crossed that path many a time.
Right.
So one example was, and I didn't feel like I couldn't be a particular way. I felt like I shouldn't be a particular way. And I think that this is what we're also discussing: is when should you be one person? When shouldn't you be one person? When should you have all of you there? Your authentic you.
Your authentic you.
And when
should you scale back?
Exactly.
Or when should you, block off certain aspects, behavioural tendencies or traits?
Yeah, completely.
Right? Mannerisms even.
Absolutely.
Right? You wouldn't just wave your hands around and be like this in a work office. People would think you're a madman unless you work for Google or something.
Yeah.
They encourage that behavior, right? But you can't just be that way in any role. So let me fast forward that time. That was the time you had. Share another extreme or more challenging time of an experience where you had an identity crisis.
I would probably say professionally. So I think we're going back to 10 years ago now. I was working for a surgical company based in the city, my first surgical company. My senior technician is an African gentleman, Jamaican actually, Jamaican. He's born in Jamaica. His family are raised here. His kids are born here and raised here. And he's from North London, so Enfield direction. Now, Enfield has its nice parts, but Enfield has its equally not so nice parts.
Right. That's North London for our viewers from Australia and from the West Coast and the States, guys. In North London.
North London, that's right. Now, he's used to people like me who have grown up in this kind of environment, quite urban, well educated, not completely nuts. And it was a big surgical day. And we had a new surgeon come in, and no one knew, but the managing director was going to turn up, and did turn up. No one knew. I had never met this gentleman before, until this day. Now, my senior knows me for who I am, like underneath the scrubs and the professional,
So he got you.
Yeah, he knew me completely. I could be completely myself. We had just finished a treatment. God, I remember this really well. We just finished a treatment, and I was about to go and get a set of notes for the next one and head back into theatre, start setting up again. As I was walking out with the patient notes, the MD walked in while I was having a conversation with my senior. Now, like I said, my senior knew me for who I was, so I could be myself. I could talk to him as though he was one of my friends. Now, how I'm talking to you now is not entirely how I speak to my friends. I have a bit of a slang going on. We have our own vibe. Then my manager was behind us, and as I was having a conversation, and we saw the MD heading towards us, he kind of just lightly tapped me on the shoulder and leant in and kind of whispered, "So you might want to just rein it down a little bit and just go back to technician habit." Now, instantly he had already kind of labelled it. You know, you need to be technician Amit. So now does that, for me in my head, okay, how many Amits do I have? There's authentic me Amit, who my senior knows.
I call that version 1.0.
Right. So
That's your base operating system. That's your base version.
Yeah. So he said, I need to go back to being technician Amit. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, you know, very, very rough and very abrupt. And he was like, well, that gentleman walking directly towards you
He's the managing director.
is the man. He's the big man. He's the big man. We met. Manager introduced myself. He introduced my senior. You know, this is the surgical team that's working today. And I've been with the company for about a year and a half now. So it's taken me a year and a half to meet the managing director. And in that split second, about 15 thoughts went through my head, at least.
Right.
Was, you know, the first one was, who do I need to be?
Right.
Who do I need to be in front of this guy? Then the second one was, how do I need to be that person? Once I figured out who I needed to be, and that was very, very kind of straight, you know.
But that was empowering for you, because once you answered those two questions, who you needed to be and how you need to be, were you able to fit into that position?
Absolutely.
And you were able to fulfill that. So I want to touch on this because I think this is a really controversial topic. I don't want to call it controversial, but it's a touchy subject, right? You want to be yourself. We all want to be ourselves in one way, but at the same time, we just can't be ourselves in front of anyone and everyone. You just can't be that way. And here's the thing: you can't blame. I don't think you can blame. Like, did you blame your MD for that? No, because your MD he has a role to play. Your MD is not being his version 1.0, right? So he's professional. Your MD is in his role as a professional, as an MD. You're in your role as Amit the technician, as opposed to Amit 1.0.
Yep.
And doesn't that say something about life situations that you know, the art of identity is perhaps less of a crisis when you recognize and accept for the real likelihood that you're going to have to be different aspects of yourself to different people. When you recognize that you're going to have to be a professional person somewhere or a friend person somewhere, and I think the crisis more happens when you apply the wrong aspects of yourself in a situation. You decide to be the authentic 1.0 in front of people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Or you decide to be.
I also think that it's when the biggest part of the crisis is when you find yourself in these situations and you don't know who you are in the first place.
Can anybody relate to this? And guys, hopefully you can hear us. Do click in and just give us an okay or a thumbs up that you can actually hear this conversation, and make sure that we're good here. We have a really good mic, as you can just see here, right here, kind of making sure that everything is clear. Should be pretty good. Tell us if you can relate to that situation where you've had to be challenged and you weren't sure which aspect of yourself to bring forward.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest challenge is when you are faced with that situation is knowing who 1.0 is, knowing who Prash 1.0 is, or Amit 1.0 is.
Big lesson there.
Then you know how to shift,
right?
Which is what we do.
But if you don't know that 1.0,
then you don't know how to shift.
Which goes back to the beginning question: do you know who you are?
Exactly.
Who are you? Not what are you? Who are you? Yeah. What are you is the roles you play. But who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
What are you is the secondary question. You can't answer that question until you know who you are.
Right, but knowing who you are, that's the first and foremost question you've got to answer. You've got to be able to know who you are. And so, let me just forward it a little bit and ask you, we've all had clashes like this. So, I think if we categorize them, there's the identity crises that occur because you don't know who you are and who you truly are to yourself. So you can't even be your authentic self to you when you're in the mirror. If you cannot be you when you're by yourself, the lights are out or the lights are on and you're seeing yourself in the bare naked mirror, right? Just you. If you cannot know who you are in that scenario, we've got a problem.
Big problem.
Big problem.
Big problem. Just go back to the MD thing. When I made that shift,
Right.
and I
Deciding which aspect of you,
Yeah.
which aspect of you to be,
was to shift,
and then how to.
how much of my own original 1.0 to shift away,
Yeah.
and how much of, I don't know, let's call it 1.1 technician Amit,
Yeah.
you know,
Technician.
to bring forward, and mix it in with a certain degree of, well, a high degree of professionalism, even more so than I am with my manager or my senior. I'd introduced myself, we started talking. Little did I know, now some people will relate to this, some people won't. Little did I know that actually me and my MD have a lot in common. Now we are in age gaps massive, so therefore we're in different times, we have very different circles. Our capacities as professionals are very different as well. Yet when we got down to just having a 5-minute conversation, I actually found that we had so much in common that I could actually shift more of 1.0 back in.
So I think that's another really good point actually, and I think that really, you touch on another point as well, so that how the identity that you bring of yourself to a given situation doesn't have to remain static.
No.
That identity can be dialed up or dialed down according to how that relationship with that person or that environment progresses,
Yes,
right? The more familiar, and I think I've had that example myself, you know, countless of times. I mean, it's like you turning up and it's your first day at university, right? And you know, everybody can relate to being at college or uni. Your first couple of weeks at university, you kind of don't know anybody other than maybe a few friends that you came with from high school. So you can kind of be yourself, and you can be more, you know, version 1.0 of yourself in front of your mates, your close friends who are with you at college or uni. You can't really be that way with everyone else. But as the weeks and the months progress, suddenly you find that those people who were strangers at the beginning start to become part of your familiar crowd. As you become more familiar and vice versa, guess what? Two things happen. They can start becoming closer to their authentic self. You can start becoming closer to your authentic self. I think that's a second valuable point here. Identifying who you are and knowing who you are and spending time to do that. And before we move on and kind of summarize these 3 points and then come on to a little surprise that we have, which we'll go on to in a second, let's just touch on that subject. 2 or 3 quick strategies to help us to better know who ourselves. And I'm going to start with one straight away, and that's mindfulness, meditation. So meditation and mindfulness together can be used as tools to ascertain your true identity. And I would add to that reflection, self-reflection. Ask yourself who you are. People don't do this. Nobody sits in a room with their phone turned off, right? With this thing turned off, sitting there saying, who am I? Who am I? No. Who am I? Oh, I'm this. No. Who am I? To sit down and recursively ask yourself who you are. Look in the mirror. Look at your own eyes in the mirror and say, who am I? Who am I? Like looking at this in the mirror and doing that.
Yes.
We don't do that. Why? Because we're not trained to do that. And yet, in the oldest spiritual literatures known to mankind, the Vedanta Sutras, for example, the very first verse, the very first axiom is Atato Brahma Jignasa. Sanskrit. Atato Brahma Jignasa means now it is time for you to know who you are. Because they believed in previous lives that you've lived many lives. You've got a human life. So Atato now, Brahma Jignasa, now is the time to inquire as to who you are and what is your true identity in this life and beyond this body. If you start doing that, you know, that process of inquisitiveness, then we can get to know who we are.
Yeah.
Care to add to that?
Completely. And just touching on the meditation, the mindfulness is, meditation comes in many forms. So, I mean, if we're going to go along with what Prash said, you know, sitting in a room by yourself, no phone, eyes closed, and, you know, whether you say it out loud or whether you're saying it in your head, doesn't really make a difference, so long as you're able to do that. However, for me, I'm not one of those people.
Okay.
I can't sit in one place unless I'm doing
Something.
And that something for me is music. Music is my meditation. You know, you could ask my parents, you could ask my friends.
Love that.
They will tell you that Amit is one of these people that cannot sit in one place and just be completely still.
Yeah.
Unless you put a choice of weapon in front of him that's musical. You put one of those in front of him and he will sit there day in, day out, all day, all night. He won't move. That's my meditation. So the question that I pose to you guys is, what's your meditation? It doesn't have to be sitting in a room. It doesn't have to be turning your phone off, eyes closed for an hour, half an hour. It doesn't have to be that. On the flip side, it doesn't have to be music. It could be anything. Most people that are creatives have an art. Whatever that art is generally your meditation. I know you are actually multiple. You can actually sit in one place with your eyes closed with no phone and you're able to question yourself. But I also know that you are like me. You can sit behind your keys, exactly. And you literally can get lost. You get lost, you're in another world, that's it. It doesn't matter what happens around you.
I think and you raise a very good point, because if you can get into a position where your thinking is switched off, your thinking is autopilot, you're not needing to think deliberately. It's a state of almost spontaneous thoughtlessness.
Yeah, and
where you're present to the moment that you're in, then that also creates a canvas for you to really get in touch with your true self, to know who you are.
Absolutely. And so then touching onto the mindfulness, being mindful is about being in the present.
In the present, yeah.
If you're sitting by yourself with your phone off, for example, yet your mind is wondering about what you did like 10 minutes ago, or a day ago, or 2 days ago,
then you're not
or
being mindful.
On the flip side, what you're going to do once you get up,
right?
Once you open your eyes, or what you're doing tomorrow.
Mind isn't always forward or reverse.
Yeah, so you're not being
bringing
mindful.
Bringing it back here.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not being mindful, and therefore you're not being present. And meditation is about this very moment.
Right. It's right here, right now.
This very second. And a lot of my musician friends are on my live stream right now. They will totally relate to this. A lot of my other creative friends, I've got a poet who's actually watching. She's phenomenal. All of my creative friends that are watching right now, they can all relate to this. That
you can relate to this. Please click in and leave a comment, leave a question, and let us know that you can relate to this or disagree.
Get involved.
Get involved, because that's what we want to do. We want to create that movement of people being in the now and being present to this conversation, or any conversation that we're having, including the conversation we sometimes have with our mind and our subconscious that we don't recognize we're even having, because we've got the conscious mind on autopilot. It's just running. It's only when you step back, and you either immerse yourself fully in what you're doing now, whether it's music, art, creativity, golf playing, going for a jog, washing the dishes, right? Sometimes you can be washing the dishes and your mind is just right in there, and there's no other thought coming. So whatever it is for you, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, and like I said, meditation is not one thing. Meditation
can take many forms.
Exactly. So for me, it's music. For you, it's multiple things. I can take my parents, for example. My dad loves to clean. He loves to clean.
And then that's his meditation.
That's when he's cleaning, you just leave him to it, because he's present. He's there in that very moment.
That's his thing, yeah.
My mum's meditation is screaming from the bottom of the stairs at me.
It's still a meditation for her.
Totally. But
I love that.
But the point is that whatever it is you choose to do, and again, I'm gonna go straight back to my creatives that are following this conversation. They will all vouch for this. That you can sit doing what your craft is, and so long as you do it wholesomely, like completely mind engrossed into it, no other thought comes into your mind, and your mind actually goes into autopilot, focused on that, and it's still, while it's moving, it's still, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when you see a wheel spin so fast that it looks still.
That it's not moving, yeah.
Right?
Reminds me of the old Jamiroquai album.
Exactly. Now,
moving without traveling.
The creatives, you guys, I want to see the whole load of comments on my Instagram on this, because you need to back me here. That's being mindful. That's being present. Right there and then. There is no more clarity. Than in that moment.
So let's summarize here a little bit. in the interest of time, we talked about several principles that are relevant to becoming better at being your true self in different scenarios without feeling inauthentic. So being your true self and knowing how to still be authentic. So one is kind of knowing who your version 1.0 is, your base version, your base operating system, who are you at your core, and that's the who are you part. We just talked about strategies here about how we can get in touch with that who we are, meditation and mindfulness, and that may take many forms for everyone. It's individual and it's different, but there is unequivocally and undeniably a need for us to be aware and cognizant of who we are, who we truly are. And that means it takes a little effort.
And it's trial and error.
And it's trial and error.
It's
Okay.
totally trial and error. Because so we've done meditation and mindfulness and being present, but then there's a lot of needing to go in and out of different circles and in and out of different networks.
And that's where your trial and error comes in.
Where your trial and error comes in. You're going to meet people who you think you can be completely 100% 1.0 with,
and then
actually
realize,
you find like, shit,
wow, I shouldn't have been so.
No, I haven't done that.
Have you ever had that? I know that in my past, I used to be a certain kind of personality that I would, some people would just get annoyed or freak out because they couldn't handle such rawness, and I had to tame it down, I had to temper it down, I had to mellow out,
You had to shift
be a certain way, right? I had to shift it. And it was a trial and error, right? You realize, oh shit, I can't be that way with these people, this is just not on, And sometimes we make that mistakes with our families as well, people who we think that we can be totally, even with elders, people who are extended family members, there's certain things you just can't be in front of certain people. And the same things with friends. If you're too formal, and if you just kind of act really formal and sort of like self-righteous, then you look like they'll just consider you a jerk, like say that you're big enough. So here's another. What we're saying really is, and drawing the conclusions from this is, it is possible. It is very possible to be authentic and still true to yourself whilst you're in one of your other personas. Whether you're in version 1.1 persona, whether in your workplace persona, whether in your family persona, you can still be authentic. You just have to learn how to envelop or encompass those different personas and dive in and out of them according to which environment you're in.
I think it's important that you take most of who you are to all of your circles.
So take that core essence of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not, which is the whole thing about you not being fake. Then you're not being fake.
And then being able to shift, as we say, because I don't like to say change, because then you're not really being yourself.
You're shifting.
For me, it's shifting how much of Amit 1.0 or Crash 1.0 you're bringing to the table.
While still retaining that authentic core.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, in the paragraph that you've put up there, we've said we touched on chameleons. A chameleon. What is a chameleon? A chameleon is essentially still itself when it's shifting colours.
Shifting.
Right? It's shifting colours. It's not changing. It's not changing from one animal to another, or it's still itself. It's just shifting based on its surroundings. And that, for me, it's very important to take yourself to every surrounding, and then assess the situation and say, okay, I need to shift this much this way. I can bring more of me, or I need to take less of me away. I need to take more of me away. And you can only do that by going right back to the beginning and knowing who you are.
Goes back to knowing who you are. So we've got some good conclusions coming out of here. Know who you are. Know who you are at your core essence. We've discussed the strategies. Rewind this video and check that if you need to. Empower yourselves with those tools to get to know who you are. Number 2, identify the various environments and people that you will typically be exposed to and categorize them. I think that's a great thing to do. Proactively knowing that you've got your friends, your closest friends, your wider friends, your family, your in-house family, your extended family, your professional, so on and so forth, your strangers. Identify the environments in general that you're likely to be in, and then I guess identify the core aspects of your true authentic self that you ought to bring to every one of those scenarios as much as possible, but then learn how to
even if it's a fresh environment that you're walking into. Me personally, I always bring my authentic self to the table. I assess it while I'm there in seconds.
and you'll be able to know who you need to be or who you want to be.
How much of that shift you need to make
in order to.
But personally, what I don't do is I don't pretend to be someone just so Crash likes me.
Right.
Because who I am that Crash likes, X might not. So then do I need to be a completely different person for X when you're standing next to each other? Because you're going to then look at me how I am with them and say, well, that's not who you were with me 10 seconds ago.
So what we're saying is, it's okay to be a chameleon. Don't be a shapeshifter.
Exactly.
The chameleon just changes its appearance a little bit as it needs to. Your shapeshifter is becoming a different being.
Yeah.
We're not shapeshifters. We still retain our essence. And I think about life, and I think that taking the example of objects in life, all living things in life. Look at a tree. A tree is, in its essence, it maintains its treeness. That which makes it a tree is maintained, whether it's in summer or winter or spring. But its manifestation, its outward manifestation, may change. According to the season, the tree exhibits brown leaves, green leaves, no leaves. But the tree is a tree. Its essence is still the same. And I think that's the lesson here that we can take, that we can still be our true essence. We can still be us. We just need to learn how to operate in different scenarios.
Yeah. Share it. The pressure.
So, knowing this and taking these lessons and knowing that it's okay to be a chameleon.
It takes time, by the way.
It takes time and it takes trial and error. But we've got a strategy here where we can still be genuine. We don't have to be fake. And we don't have to feel we're shortchanging ourselves when we're having to curb our personality in front of new people or people that we don't always hang out with. It's just the nature of that environment. They may not be ready for that. They may not want to see that. As long as your core authentic self shows up, the rest is for you to decide how much or less or more. As you said, you dial it up and you dial it down according to that longevity of that relationship, how fresh or how familiar it is.
Yeah.
And how well received those people are to you, how receptive they are to you. Okay. If they're not very friendly with you, you may not want to expose your whole life. If they're really friendly and they just love you being around you, be yourself. Knock yourself out.
Ask yourself, and again, this is another question from me to you guys that are tuned in, is if you don't bring your authentic self and you meet someone, that person may not like the change, not the shift, because you haven't shifted, you've become a different person.
Right.
They might not like that, but you don't have another shot then to then say, well, actually, I came to you and I was a different person.
Sure.
What I should have done was be myself.
Right.
Because you might like that. So this is why I always bring me to the table. I bring 1.0 to the table and I make ever so slight shifts,
right,
rather than being fake. In fact, do you remember when we met?
Right.
When we met, I was Amit 1.0. Like, I didn't even shift. And I remember, in fact, I think this goes across quite a few people, especially in our circle. A lot of people get taken back by me because they look at me and they see one thing. Then they see what it is I do, or they hear what it is I do, and then they're like what? How have you gone from what we see to being able to do all of this?
Yeah.
The best one is when you say to people ask me, what do you do? Like, well, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that what you do full time? Now, over the last 2 years, yes, that's what I do full time. Before that, no, I was a surgical technician. So you're a surgical technician. Now again, go back to the hoodie and the cap. a hoodie and a cap. You're not a musician and you're not a surgical technician either.
It's unconscious bias, my friend.
Right? So
We all suffer from this.
bring yourself to every situation. Now ask yourself, again, go back to my question to you guys is, if you don't bring yourself to the table and someone likes you or someone doesn't like you, either way, right? Do you have another chance? Because I don't think you do. But do you have another chance to then go back to that table and make the change? So if I met Crash right now for the first time and I brought, I don't know, I'm at 1.7, who is definitely nowhere near, and Crash don't like that, do I have another chance?
I think you do. I do. I do. And I'll caveat that.
Oh.
You have another chance based on two predominating factors. Firstly, one factor is down to you, the other factor is not in your hands. The first of those two factors, which is very much in your hands, is how authentically can you come back to that situation and say, hey, guys, that was a side of me that I do exhibit many times, but I appreciate that but there's a side of me that you may not know, and I just want to have a chance to exhibit my core side.
Okay.
And maybe I showed you a side of me that you guys weren't ready for, and maybe that was on me. So when you show authenticity and humility, and you pair those things together, you're bold enough to go back and tell them, saying, guys, and you're not apologizing and saying, sorry for being me. You're not saying sorry for being me. You're saying, hey, I exhibited myself in a way that I would normally do in front of people that I'm really close with, and maybe that wasn't the right thing for me to do here. And we all make mistakes. I make mistakes, or we always misjudge a situation. I want to have a chance to sit back down and just chat freely. I think if you bring authenticity and humility to a situation, then there's that chance. The second factor in this is how receptive that audience is. That audience may be a bunch of people who are in a high moving, fast paced, professional environment. They don't have time to give you a second chance. They don't care. You presented yourself in one way, version 1.7, however you did, they didn't like it, you're out.
That's it.
But at the same time, if they're receptive and the environment is around a dinner table, and you're out in a function and you sat, and you kind of come back half an hour later and say, guys, look, let me press the reset button here. And they're kind of like, okay, tell us who you are.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I personally, I've not always come across that, especially throughout life, my own personal life, because I can be quite intense as a person, and that comes from my circles, my upbringing, not my home upbringing or my family upbringing, but my outside, my social circles or my work circles, and actually just that stemming from your own time, that time that we were saying where you have time to meditate or reflect or look in the mirror. I'm a very intense person. When I come across, to some people I can come across quite abrupt. Some other people I can come across a bit of a rude boy.
There has to be, yeah.
But then this goes back to the question of who are you? If you don't know who you are, how are you supposed to then? How do you put it?
How do you communicate yourself? How do you conduct yourself in front of others? And I think the thing is that even if you are, let's say you're just a loud extrovert person, that doesn't necessarily give you the right to just be loud and extrovert in any environment, right? As human beings, we are invested with a certain amount of responsibility, I think, that we are vested with to be able to use our discretion to conduct ourselves in a way that is appropriate to the people that you're around. If you're an extrovert person and you have a really bubbly personality, would you take that to a funeral? Does that mean that you're an asshole? No. Does it mean they're an asshole because they want that you be yourself at a funeral? No. It's just that you wouldn't conduct yourself in that extrovert, loud way at a funeral. But you might do it at a party. At the same time, if you bring your somber nature from a funeral to a party, you may not do so well. So I think we need to. I think that you've hit the nail on the head. That we need to get to know who we are, allow ourselves enough slack to be able to recognize that we have some trial and error in figuring out how we can be in front of some people. And also be humble enough to know that we may have to rein in at certain aspects of our nature or dial up if we're too super shy in order to be able to mingle in different aspects. If you don't want to do that, go to the jungle.
Yeah.
Live in a cave. Don't worry about human interaction. As long as we're interacting with human beings, different races, spaces, colors, even if they're of the same race, I don't care. You have to be able to know that you have to have multiple identities, versions of yourself, as long as your core is there. You just got to be a chameleon.
Just don't be. I think the most important thing that we're going to take from this today is
Don't be fake.
don't be fake.
Don't be fake.
Absolutely, don't be fake. And that means if you know who you are and you're that person behind closed doors by yourself,
Yeah.
don't leave that person at
Yeah,
home.
don't apologize for that.
Yeah, but don't leave them at home, right?
Bring that person with you.
and then when you leave the confines of your four walls, you have to pretend to be
Yeah.
this person and that person and this person because while 1.0 is still sitting at home.
No.
Because you're being fake. And look, we live in a world where not very many people know who they are in the first place. Because
It's a tragedy, my friend.
it's such a tragedy. You know, look, I'm not naming names. I have loads of friends like this. You know, I know who they are, but the rest of the world doesn't. You know, and this is such a shame because actually, when you get to know X 1.0,
Then you can.
you know, that's when you can really appreciate that person,
Who they are.
who they
So I
are,
think
what they
that's a
bring to
good
the table.
lesson. Don't be fake. Bring your real self.
Don't be afraid to bring yourself.
Yeah, don't
You
be.
know,
I think you can.
Not
Don't be,
everyone.
yeah, don't be apologetic about it.
No, don't be afraid. Absolutely, and don't apologize for being who you are. I've never done so, and
But
I've
know
done
that know that with being yourself comes responsibility
absolutely.
to know how to present yourself in different scenarios.
And look, you know, everyone says this. You can't please everyone, right? We all say this, right?
Yeah.
We
You're gonna be a nice guy. Everybody's gonna think. Somebody's gonna think you're an asshole.
Yeah, totally. And we said this last week at the gig. You know, you can't please everyone.
It's just the way it is.
Um,
So good lessons here, folks. We're drawing close on time, and I don't want to end this night without a real surprise that we've got in store.
do we have any questions?
Questions? I've got a note here from Anuj coming. Hi, Amit and Prash. Great show. How much of identity do you think is your nature, and how much is developed because of your environment or upbringing? Your quick take on that.
Anuj, dude, always a pleasure. From my own experience, I think it's a 50-50 split.
Nature versus nurture.
Yeah, I think
50-50
split.
is what I'm saying, guys.
Personally, for me, it's a 50-50 split because my upbringing is who I am completely from my parents and my home life, and the other 50% came from that kind of growing up.
Nice.
Growing up and venturing out and really finding the rest of me, because that's essentially what life is. You grow up and you kind of you grow up and you grow out. That's right. You spread and you get to know who you are. You have to learn who you are.
You almost have to
That's
go
how
out
you know
there
who you are.
to then come back and know who you are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to lose yourself to find yourself. It's that cliched saying, but you've got to lose yourself to find yourself.
I have lost myself many a time. Many a time.
The aha moment finally drops.
Yeah.
There's a powerful aha moment.
I have lost myself so many times.
There's
to
a
find
powerful
myself
aha
again.
moment. So don't be afraid. Let's
Yeah.
take that as a lesson. Don't be afraid to lose yourself. Mira's coming in. Mira K. Madvika, a wonderful musician and singer in her own right. She goes, if you could change anything about your identity, what would it be and why?
Firstly, shout out to Mira. Don't tell me I didn't give you a shout out. I did. Sorry, go on, repeat that one for me.
If you could change anything about your identity, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't. Because who I am is who I am. It's what people either like me for, love me for, they don't. But I am who I am, and I'm not apologetic for it. I don't regret it. I am who I am.
Great question, Mira.
Don't be afraid of being who you are. You know, like I said right at the beginning, I have the right side of me, I have the wrong side of me. I've grown up with the right kind of people. I've also been raised around the wrong kind of people. But it's allowed me You know, even the situations that I've ended up in with the right people and the wrong people, it's allowed me to know who I am, find who I am completely,
And then bring that around.
Yeah, completely.
Back here.
Absolutely.
Manju says, thank you, Amit. Manju says, some people hide behind a facade they portray, but behind closed doors they're different. And I think
that's discussing. This is exactly what we're discussing.
And that, Manju, that's what we've been saying earlier in the call, that, you know, people do hide behind a facade. And what we're trying to redefine in this conversation and invite this audience to embrace and consider is that sometimes it's okay to have different aspects of our persona. That doesn't necessarily mean a facade. As long as you're being authentically your core self, you may then dial up or dial down aspects of your personality according to the people that you're with and the environment. And we gave this example of being at a funeral versus a party. You wouldn't necessarily bring the same personality to both, as long as your core self is there. At the same time, bringing a facade and being fake, as you said earlier, just to get people to like you or just to please people, then that's fake. And that's a difference between modifying yourself and adjusting the way you conduct yourself according to people, place, and circumstance versus just being fake.
I think it means two different things as well. It can either mean, one, you don't know who you are, which was the initial question of this whole topic.
Yeah.
Or two, you know who you are and you don't love yourself.
Right.
You don't like who you are. And if you don't like who you are, you're not going to put that person out. Therefore, you will have no other choice but to be fake. You have to go and put on this mask like it is Halloween outside. All of these kids are running around with masks. You know, you will have to put on a mask. You'll have to put on this other outfit, which is a totally different person. You're going to go out and you're going to be fake. You're going to put on a facade. So, you know, it's the two things. One, know who you are, and two, once you know who you are, love you completely, and don't be apologetic for who you are. You know, people, you can't please everyone. People will either love you or they won't. It's that simple.
And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to love yourself, and that's a conversation that will unfold. We touch on aspects of how to love yourself throughout the history of our initiative, Urban Spirituality and Mantra Therapy, and it heart breathes this philosophy of learning to love who you are and know who you are. And that's such a powerful message to take home. And folks, we will explore that together through everything that we're doing through our podcasts, so much more. So stay tuned and just relish the opportunity to be on the journey, and don't get impatient to know who you are tomorrow. Don't get impatient to love all of you tomorrow. Because we've just spent a lifetime in this one life of doing things that cause us to hate ourselves or regret. And we've got countless lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation, there have been countless other lifetimes where you have regret. All of these subconsciously play on our minds. These are vasanas, these are impressions, and it takes time to unwind. So don't be so impatient. Allow for the possibility that you can love yourself and forgive yourself. And I think if you take that first step, that's the step. And you're living proof that you've done that. You've accepted the sides of yourself which are unpalatable to some and palatable to others. And you found a way to synthesize that and still present yourself as a holistic human being, as a complete Amit, an Amit 1.0, where it matters to the people that it matters to, and to the scenarios that it matters. And I think if we can achieve that in our own lives, just that much, we don't have to please everybody. The world will just be happy with us being who we are. God knows it's got enough assholes. Yeah. Right?
God knows.
All right. So, surprise time. So, folks, those of you who have not had the chance, those of you who know Amit and who've heard him and followed him on social and all the various other channels, you'll know he's an incredible tabla player. I regard him as possibly one of the top 3 tabla players in the UK, maybe in Europe. I've heard a lot, and this guy is just incredible. But what many of you may not know is he also loves playing another instrument known as the harmonium, and he enjoys singing. So, without further ado, as a world premiere on Urban Spirituality on this show right here, we're bringing from Northwest London to the world 3 continents watching this tonight. We often have 4, but 3 continents watching this show tonight. We have live with a powerful and gentle, small taster of his voice and his soul. Please Close your eyes, let your hair down, loosen your shoulders, and be ready to ingest some deep spiritual vibes. Yeah. I'm really excited because we've never had anybody play this instrument live on our show. Big shout out to our musician friends who are watching this. We've got much love, big love for all our London crew, our UK crew. So many of you guys have tuned in, musicians, non-musicians, our regulars. It's just such a pleasure that you've stuck around, and the Halloween scares have turned into Halloween empowerment tonight. So glad we left the tricks to be treated instead. I'm joking.
एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतम् भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि सद्गुरुं तं नमामि सद्गुरुं तं नमामि पावन परमेश्वर मेरे मन ही मन शर्माऊं मन ही मन शर्माऊं मेरी जान मेरी जान मेरी जान तूने मुझको जग में भेजा तूने मुझको जग में भेजा निर्मल देकर काया आकर के संसार में मैंने उस पर दाग लगाया मैं तो जन्मों जन्म की मेरी चादर कैसे दाग छुड़ाऊं कैसे दाग छुड़ाऊं मेरी जान ओढ़ के कैसे मेरी जान ओढ़ के कैसे द्वार तुम्हारे आऊं और आकर के संसार में मैं नमूंद कर है परमेश्वर कभी ना तुझको ध्याया मन मीरा की तारे टूटी मन मीरा की तारे टूटी अब क्या गीत सुनाऊं अब क्या गीत सुनाऊं मेरी चादर मेरी चादर मेरी चादर इन पैरों से चल कर तेरे इन पैरों से चल कर तेरे मंदिर कभी ना आया जहाँ जहाँ हो पूजा तेरी कभी न शीश झुकाया है हरि हर में हार कराया है हरि है हरि हर में हार कराया अब क्या हार चढ़ाऊं मैं अब क्या हार चढ़ाऊं मेरी चादर मेरी चादर मेरी चादर
Wow. So honored. Ladies and gentlemen, Amit Jay with us on Urban Spirituality. That was magical. What was the name of the meditation that you sang?
It's called Meli Chadar, which means, well, the literal translation is dirty blanket,
Yeah.
or dirty cloth or clothes. But what it refers to is our body, our skin, our soul. And briefly in the first verse it says, "Tune mujhko jug mein bheja nirmal dekar kaya," which means you sent me to this earth with a complete blank sheet, with a completely clean soul, clean body. और आकर के संसार में मैंने उस पर दाग लगाया. All I've done since I've come here is
Tarnish that plug.
tarnish it, toxicate it, and do everything else but look after it.
Beautiful.
And as you go along, you know, I didn't sing your songs, your praises. I didn't come to the temple.
So it's a prayer of retribution to the divine. That you placed me in such a pure state, and I had become conditioned by this worldly play.
And the last one, very last line is a devotee saying to God, "Hari Har mein har kara." All I've done is I've come to your doors, and I've come humble in surrender. But now that I've done all of this, even though I'm here now surrendering myself to you, how do I come and put a hara over you now?
Amazing. So much devotion in that. And folks, if you've heard that, that is from the Hindi tradition. It's a Hindi devotional prayer. It's known as a bhajan for those of you who don't speak Hindi or Sanskrit. And it is a powerful avenue to making inroads in healing our heart and our spirit. Even though the words may not make sense, the sound vibration in itself has a potent means to heal. And it's just great hearing you sing it as Amit 1.0, by the way. So I want to thank Amit for bringing his authentic version 1.0, real self here, mostly, and he may have had to tone down a few things, but as you can see, he's able to bring his authentic self while still being sensitive to the time, place and circumstance and environment. And I think that is the wisdom for all of us to gain. If we can gain wisdom from this, let us recognize that we may need to be chameleons in different environments, but we're still the same animal, we're still the same core. Our 1.0 is there, we just hide or exhibit as we need to according to the circumstances. Be authentic, that's our wisdom. Folks, you've stayed for this long. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this ride and just tuning in. I want to also say a special thanks to the wonderful parents of Amit who have been with us in the home studio, filming with us and sharing their love and their appreciation of Amit here with the wider world. So I want to say a special thanks to both of them as well.
I don't often get to say it myself, but or to them, but obviously without them, I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't know how to do any of this. I wouldn't even know who Amit 1.0 is.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, honestly, heartfelt thank you to both my mother and my father for everything they've done, everything they continue to do, everything they'll continue to do. No other words.
Long may they continue doing so much. They are such examples. I'm honored to know them myself. They live in Harrow, but they live here, right there.
Right there.
Folks, thank you for being on the journey. A couple of wonderful things coming your way. Watch out for our upcoming episodes. We keep this going. We humbly ask that you share this if you like what you're seeing. Like our page. If you're already liking it, share the goddamn page, because by God, we need more pages and initiatives like Urban Spirituality, like Mantra Therapy, to bring authentic, unfiltered conversation to the masses. God, we need to do this, because otherwise the media is doing it to us 24/7. They'll keep doing it to us unless we start taking control and bringing this kind of wisdom out. So please support us in whichever way you can. Primarily, just go share what we're doing. Go check out the Tao Principle, which we'll have in the link, and go and support this fine fellow over here. Look and check out our YouTube channel, which we've recently launched. So our YouTube channel is there, Urban Spirituality on YouTube. Go like and subscribe. Click that bell so you can get our wisdom. And watch out, last but not least, we've got our fantastic retreats coming in 2019. We're going to be taking you to Wales, we're going to take you to Venice, we're going to take you out into incredible Hungary and more. Lots more in store in 2019. And the Urban Spirituality Podcast, where you will find talented individuals like Amit sharing their wisdom from different walks and races. They are available on iTunes. Check out Urban Spirituality by Prash K on iTunes. Also find it on Android, Urban Spirituality. Google the podcast and you will find it, and go dive in to wisdom that will help you to become your true self and know who you are. That's what we're trying to do. Please support us in our journey and care and share to the max on every platform that you can, so we can spread good knowledge free, without fuss, and with love and authenticity.
Definitely go to the retreats. I've been on one, I'm going on another one next year with Prash.
Amen to that.
I don't know which one yet, but we're going to work that one out.
Oh,
so,
man.
you know, definitely join. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best things I've done before. We went to Madrid together. Up in the mountains. It was amazing. And actually, also, I'm just watching your phone. Do post questions. Whenever I get a chance over the next couple of days, I will jump onto this live and I will respond to questions.
You have an open invitation from the director of the Tao Principle himself, the principal of the Tao Principle, right here. So put your questions. Seriously, it's a dialogue. I mean, you're so right. Share your questions, bring your dialogue. And last but not least, watch out for our mentorship program. We're starting, which we recently launched. We're going to be launching officially, but it is on its way. We will be inviting all of you to join us on a monthly basis, where we'll be sharing wisdom week by week, challenges, wisdom, insights, coaching and mentoring to help you bring out the best of yourself as we move into 2019. Watch out for that. Stay tuned. Ping any questions you have. Me, Prash K, Urban Spirituality, Mantra Therapy, and from this fine gentleman, Amit Girish Jogia. Amit,
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you, sir, so much for being with us.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Guys.
Namaste, guys.
Thank you.
Finished. Done.
Amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. Went on a little longer. I guess we
Dude,
just one of those things.
that was wicked.
I thought it was amazing.
That was wicked.
Do you want to
Oh,
this
yeah.
one? 'Cause
Of
I'll
course,
just
and I was just
put stop on it
stop करना.
and